How's it going, everyone? And welcome once again to another episode of Animal Talk Podcast in collaboration with SARCA, the South African Animal Keepers Association. I'm Ryan Ferguson.
And I'm Ayrton King. Hi, Ryan. How are you?
I am doing very well. Happy New Year, and 2026 is here with us.
Yeah, Happy New Year. Compliments of the season. I can't believe we are already in 2026. It's quite crazy if you think about it.
Yeah, it's went really quickly, and I was just kind of looking back and realized we've done together 5 episodes, and in total with the new reboot of Animal Talk Podcast, 6 episodes in the last year, which is pretty cool, and we're going strong.
Yeah, that's very cool. I mean, it really feels like just the other day that we had the conversation about me joining you on this venture. So yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, and I think we must just let all the listeners know that we have been a little bit AWOL over the last month, and that was due to us just taking a season break. I'm sure, as everybody knows, during the December and a little bit of January season, it's pretty hectic in the animal industry. Yeah. So we decided to take a little bit of a break because it was going to be slightly difficult to schedule each other in, and also difficult to get some guests on with everything going a bit manic during season. So we took that break, but we're back at it and excited to get going. We also have some really, really exciting news.
Very exciting news. You know, I always say with a new year comes new opportunities. And yeah, I'm very excited. Do you want to tell our listeners, Ryan, about the amazing opportunity?
Sure. So we've had a really cool opportunity, and we've been contacted by a digital radio station based in Mossel Bay in the Western Cape, and they have offered us a time slot to put our podcasts in. So they will play our podcast, the most recent one that we record each week, at 10 a.m. every Saturday morning on their radio station. So that's really, really cool, and we're really excited about that.
Yeah, we're really excited because, you know, as we always mention on our podcast, all we want is to try and reach more people. And by reaching more people, we reach more animals, and we can make a bigger difference in both the lives of the animals and the people. And this is going to, you know, just go in with that mission to reach a greater audience. So, yeah, amazing.
100%. And this is our first episode that will be broadcast on the radio station. So that's really exciting. And for those of you that are only just joining us for Animal Talk Podcast and listening in on the radio station, welcome and thank you for listening in. And just to give you a little bit of a background onto SARCA, the South African Animal Keepers Association, if you are interested in looking into it, you're more than welcome to go onto their website. It's sarca.org. It'll give you all the information you need to know about SARCA and what SARCA does. It's really important to kind of know exactly what they do if you'd like to get involved there.
Yeah, so Ryan, I thought for this episode, maybe we can just reflect a bit on all the episodes that we've done this past year in 2025, and we can give some, you know, some background into some of the episodes that we've done, touch a little bit on some of the topics here and there, but then also maybe, you know, add some more information from, you know, our past experience over this December season, if anything's come up that can tie into those different topics.
Definitely, I agree. Let's do it.
All right. So, I mean, looking back, I think, you know, the first episode I got to do with you was talking about fish, that fish don't have 3-second memories and that you can actually train them. I still think for me, that's probably one of my favorite podcasts that I got to do with you. But I think it is being a little bit biased because it was about fish, and that's generally what I do. And then also just looking back, you know, we've had some amazing guests that have joined us. I mean, we had Gabby joining us from Ushaka. We've had Peter Boloy from Joburg Zoo. We had Candice Gray talking about the workshop that we attended. You had some of your colleagues join us back from FreeMe. I think we had Tammy joining us, and she was talking about the aerodrome, which was really amazing. Out of all of those, what do you think was your favorite episode? I know it's a really difficult question, but...
So I actually have I was going to say I actually have quite a few, so it's difficult to decide on my favorite one. I sound like a lot of the guests when we ask them what's their favorite animal. But, however, oh, let's not do that. I've just pressed play on Spotify as I was scrolling through some of the episodes I was looking at. The one that stands out the most, and that is because it got the most views, likes, and comments, is Keep a Burnout. That for me was really cool, and I think it was something that everybody grasped onto when we started our next part of the podcast. But yes, I have to say that there were quite a few really awesome episodes. But the one episode that really, really, really stands out for me is our recent guest that we had on, and that was Kamotso and his excitement about being an animal keeper and everything that he does and everything that he wants to do. I think that's exactly why we're doing what we do, and also the reason why we sit on a committee with Saka. And I think it was just a very, very cool episode to be a part of.
Yeah, I think it was, a really raw episode as well. You're just getting to hear from somebody who works in the industry, and you can hear his passion that he has for the animals that he gets to work with. So, yeah, that's also one of my favorites. And yeah, as you mentioned, Keep a Burnout. If there's ever a time to speak about it, I think it's now, after December. I think some of our listeners are probably having, family burnout as well after all the festive activities. And essentially, when we talk about burnout, it's basically what we're talking about is in the animal keeper industry, especially, it's a lot of, physical work, but there's a lot of emotional work as well, because you're working with animals every day that basically require a lot of, care, but also a lot of attention. And when you're working with those animals, especially for a long period of time, you, of course, build a connection. When we go, especially into like a December season, often there's a lot of staff that are off, and you're running with a very small team, and you end up taking on a lot of responsibility. You are quite often working almost endlessly for a long period of time. Not only are you, having to show up every day for those animals, but you also having to then go home, show up for your family, show up for your friends. And that's essentially what we talk about when we talk about burnout, because there's just so much happening in your life, but you still have to have that commitment to the animals. Thought we can just touch on that as well.
100%. And I think there's also a part of that that also comes into play, and that is that a lot of our family and friends may not understand why, because a lot of us put our passion and drive into our job, and we're very dedicated to it. It's not just a 9 to 5 job. When you're at home, you're still thinking about what's happening with the animals, everything okay. A lot of people don't really get it, especially if they're not in the industry. So it's sometimes difficult with friends and family for them to understand, why are you working on Christmas Day? And that's because animals don't take a break, and somebody's got to look after them.
Yeah, I think that's something I always think about, like on Christmas Day or on New Year's Day. Especially, I think about it more, especially when I'm off from work. In my own facility, we know that if I'm off, I know that there's a team that's there at work looking after those animals. But if you think about it, across the globe, in every animal facility that has, animals in human care, on those public holidays or that time that you're spending with your family, in every facility across the globe, there's a dedicated team that is showing up for those animals on that day. And I think that's always, something that reminds me and always makes me a bit grateful when I do get to be off during a festive time and I get to spend it with my family, because I always get to think about all those other animal keepers that are actually not with their families, but they've decided, today is the day I need to go to work. The rest of the world is kind of having a nice festive time, but I have to show up for the animals, and that's where their responsibility is. And I think that's really just sums up the amazing passion that there is across the animal care industry.
Yeah, it goes back to ensuring the welfare and conditions that our animals are in, and making sure that we keep to all the strict schedulings that we have for them, and making sure that they're all okay. And yeah, passion definitely plays a huge role in it. And that's why I think when we hear passion from those animal keepers out there and getting to talk to them and hear their adventures and the things that they do, it's always really fun to hear.
Yeah, and you mentioned as well just this idea of we don't ever really turn off from the animals that we work with, and that might be a difficult concept if you don't work in the industry. But I think the best way to put it is, if you're a parent, if you're a mom or a dad, and you've got kids, it's the exact same for us with the animals that we have to look after every day. You're always wondering what they're doing. You're wondering if they're okay, if they're not doing too well over a period and you're not at work, you worrying about them just like you would if you have a sick child at home. So it's the exact same kind of sensation and feeling. And that's what Ryan's essentially referring to when he mentions that we can't really turn off from our work, even when we're at home trying to enjoy the holiday or leave.
You're speaking from experience.
Indeed. I always joke that, when we take leave, it takes us you have to take 2 weeks of leave, because the first week it's you trying to unwind and tune out from work, and then you can enjoy the second part of your leave. But it does take a lot, because those are, little souls and little beings that you are responsible for. And when you're responsible for any, animal or human being, it's a very important job that we have. How do you not show up for them? So I think it's ingrained in us when you work in the industry to be, so in tune with your animals. And then all of a sudden it gets to a period where it's leave and they're like, okay, you need to be off now. It's very, very difficult not to, you don't know what to do. You're like, my day, this is not what I'm used to. I'm not used to waking up late. I'm not used to not having an animal to look after. So yeah, it is very strange taking leave, but it's important.
Yeah. We are creatures of habit, just like a lot of our animals. So it tends to throw us out a little bit. And then we've just got used to not being there and dealing with things at home. And then, you're going back again, and you've got to get back used to the scheduling again and back into the swing of things. But I must admit that when I used to take leave, I was really excited to get back to work and see my animals and work with them again and start with the training and check how everything's been going. And that actually takes me to another point, and you did kind of mention it before, when there's other teams looking after the animals while you are not there, how important it is to trust those people and know that they are, well versed in what needs to happen, especially if you've been doing training with animals, that they know what to do. Because let's say you take leave for about 2 weeks, that's quite a lapse in time for no training. So it's important to continue with the training and keep up with that repetition and keeping those animals, enriched as well, and making sure their welfare is all up to standard.
No, definitely. I would say if you don't trust the team that you're leaving your animals with, rather don't take leave because you're not going to enjoy leave. So I was very happy that I could step away and just, know that my animals and my areas are looked after by people that I trust and people that know the animals very well. So that definitely it's a big part of working in the industry, because we call it a handover period, basically. So you're basically handing over that section to another team member. But keeping in mind, over weekends, this happens throughout the year. So generally, we get really good at handing over areas in such a way so that the team taking over knows what needs to be done, what the diet needs to be, if there's any animal training that needs to be done. And again, that's all for the sake of the animals, to make sure that they still have the same routine to follow, that they still have their training sessions. Yeah, so I think that's all very important. And it's a big thing that we always focus on when it comes to a keeper going on leave, especially with animals that are bonded to keepers. So if you have a particular animal that works really well with one particular keeper, it can be very difficult and challenging for that animal and also the staff member that's taking over if that animal doesn't really get along with you and you don't necessarily have the best, working relationship with that animal. So there's a lot that goes into organizing staff and the staff that are there and the staff that can be off and can't be off. I think that can be a whole nother discussion in another podcast.
Yeah, definitely. That's like staff going into staff training, and making sure everybody's on the same page and communication. We've kind of delved into it a little bit, but we can definitely flesh that out a bit more into another podcast. But Also, just thinking about some other episodes that we chatted about, there's one that stands out again for me, and that is episode 23, and that was with Dave and Margaret from Wild Welfare. I think that was a really cool episode and delving into the welfare and everything welfare wise for animals. And that brought us into the amazing workshop we experienced and both got to experience at Johannesburg Zoo last year, which was really cool.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, there's things that I've taken away from Dave and Margaret and the workshop that I can confidently say I'm still in the process of implementing, and it's something that, when I wake up every morning, it's like, oh, we've got to do this today. This is still on the to-do list. It just gave us such a such perspective on the industry, the animals that we're working with, the amount of empathy that really is lacking in the world, in human beings, and really just trying to put ourselves into those animals' shoes and trying to work out, where the gaps are and where we need to, pull up our socks and improve our welfare or our training plans or our enrichment. And that's really, I can confidently say from the Joburg Zoo workshop, it's really just set a fire under me to really just look at every aspect of what I do every day and see, where can I improve? What can we do better? What adjustments need to be made? So yeah, was a very exciting episode. And also then, as you mentioned, going from there into the workshop, it was, I think, just was a wonderful experience.
Definitely an epic experience, and hopefully we get to do that again. Saka is definitely going to arrange some more workshops, Joburg Zoo, Wild Welfare. So we'll keep you guys posted on all of those workshops and things coming up in 2026. And that kind of brings us also to maybe discussing a little bit about Animal Talk podcast and going further in this year and what our plans are. For those of you who have just joined us and listening in, we'll quickly discuss what Animal Talk podcast is, what our strategy is, and what we would really like to do in the coming year. So, Animal Talk podcast started quite a few years ago, 2020, during lockdown. And then there was a break in between of about 5 years, and then dusted off the mic and kind of got it back up and running again, and kind of asked somebody that's joining me right now. And that was my co-host, Ayrton. And we started off a brand new reboot of Animal Talk podcast. And it's been going really, really well. I think we've got a good flow going, and I think we'd like to keep our flow going quite nicely. So the idea behind it is that our podcasts, when we are recording them, we don't really have any sort of script and script everything and make sure that everything we cover is correct. And we kind of just make it as though it's a conversational thing and everything comes up in conversation and we chat about it. But also we try and keep it that one episode, it'll be, for example, like this one, Ayrton and I just chatting about a few topics or one topic. And then the next episode, the following week, would probably be with a guest. It's nice to have some other people on and chat to them about their experiences and what they do, and bringing some insights as well. And I think our main focus is to try and get as much information out there to as many animal keeper people as possible, or anybody interested in animal care. And if they've got any information that they want to share, or they might just enjoy listening to everything that we have to share on each episode. So I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add, Ayrton.
So I think, as you mentioned, we really trying to, the core kind of target group that we have is definitely animal keepers and people working in the industry. But the topics that we talk about, when we talk about some of the podcasts we've done, like the value of trust, choice and control, when we had Gabby Harris chatting to us from Ushaka, dealing with loss, teamwork. These are all episodes that we've done, but it isn't, restricted to the animal care industry in terms of zoos and aquariums. This can all be applied to your pets at home. There's so much that you can take, I think, from Animal Talk podcast and apply to your pets, apply to animals that you maybe, if you're a house sitter and you go and you work with different animals all the time. So there's lots of, room for this community of people that either work in the animal care industry in zoos and aquariums, or just, in the domestic animal industry as well, with pets and farm animals and things like that. So if you are listening, I think what I want to really just stress is this is really just a podcast for everybody that cares about animals and wants to know more and wants to do right by their animals. And that's really what we're trying to achieve with the podcast.
Yeah, I think it's very important to just mention that. Well done for that, because anybody can really listen in and take some information. I mean, even if you've got backyard chickens, for example, you could do some really cool things with them. And it's just all about care and how we kind of want to see everybody focusing on welfare and ensuring that animals are well looked after. And you can definitely learn a lot from our podcast. So please keep listening in. I'm sure there will be something in there for you, whether it's in this episode or another episode. I'm sure you will enjoy listening to Animal Talk podcast.
And, we try and come up with as many exciting topics as, Ryne and I can come up with. But also, if there's anything that you are listening to our podcast and you want us to chat about, please reach out to us and, let's get a conversation started so that we can talk about particular topics that you want to hear about. So it's not just restricted to the topics that we're chatting about. We really want this to be a discussion amongst this whole community that we're trying to build.
Yeah, 100% agree. And also, while you were chatting, I was just thinking about it. It also opens up to a lot of people maybe thinking what actually happens in the animal industry, because they might not be in it and might be interested to know how things work and what happens. So I think it's a good place to listen in and hear how things work behind the scenes, because we delve a little bit into behind the scenes stuff, and how keepers treat certain situations or things like that. So I think that's really cool as well.
Yes, definitely. There's a lot of focus now, especially on the zoo and the aquarium industry. Unfortunately, there's a lot of, kind of a bad view of keeping animals under human care. But there's also so much good that comes from animals being, under human care. And also just, I think you'll hear through our episodes, the amount of, effort and love and passion that is in this industry for the animals that we look after, really just shows you how we look after these animals. And of course, there's always exceptions, and there's always, different facilities that do things in different ways. But it's really through the podcast that you'll also hopefully be able to understand just the amount of effort and work that goes into looking after animals under human care.
Yeah, it's not an easy job, but we definitely love what we do. And I think that's the great thing about the passion that we all have for this industry. We just really, really love what we do. We love the animals that we work with. And it's not an easy industry to get into. Well, to get into, yes, but maybe not to stay in a lot of the time, because, as we chatted about the burnout and a lot involved in, losing animals and that emotional side of things. But there's definitely that passion that drives us to do well with our animals and care for our animals to the best of our ability. Well, you know what? I think it leads into another part, and that is to thank our new opportunity. So like we mentioned in the beginning, we have this really awesome opportunity to have a time slot on eRadio. eRadio is a digital radio station based in Mossel Bay in the Western Cape. And we'd just like to thank them very much for giving this opportunity for us to be a part of their radio station every Saturday at 10 a.m. So we're really excited about that.
Yeah, thank you so much, eRadio, for this opportunity. And we look forward to doing more episodes and reaching more listeners. Thank you for just helping us with our Animal Talk podcast mission.
Yeah. And to all of our listeners, thank you very much for sticking with us. And to our new listeners, welcome once again. And we hope to have more of you listening in. Yeah. And speaking about communicating, if you guys want to get hold of us, you can email us on animal.talk201@gmail.com. And we have a few social medias. So Ayrton will tell you a bit more about that.
Of course, we are on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Our handle is Animal Talk Podcast _ZA. So go and find us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. And please go and like our pages, subscribe, share them, so that we can, get out there and reach as many keepers and animal lovers as possible.
Yeah, and our podcast is available on all podcast platforms. So wherever you listen to your podcast, you will find Animal Talk Podcast. And it's really nice to hear from you guys. So please, please, please let us know what you think. And if you have any ideas about other topics or things that you would like to hear us talk about, or maybe somebody you would like us to try and see if we can chat to, please let us know. We'd love to hear from you. We also like to know how you guys feel about the topics that we have discussed and how you feel about our podcast and how it's moving forward. And again, we're really excited to be back. And remember, animals are our passion.
Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. And remember that our quality of care is their quality of life. Bye.
Bye. You sounded like you had a frog in your throat there.
I did. It's still, yeah.
Their quality of care is our quality of...
Shall I say that again?
You can if you want to.